Hey, what is going on, guys? My name is InTheGamerTag and I'm back for your daily Fortnite video. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys RazorX's Fortnite settings. This is going to be going over his sensitivity settings, some miscellaneous settings he has on or off, some other changes he's made to various settings that you might not even expect, as well as his keybinds, and then lastly going over his dead zones. Now, if you guys go into enjoy today's video or find it helpful, a like would be very much appreciated. On the contrary, if you genuinely dislike today's video, then feel free to leave a dislike. Also, if you're new around here and would like to see more daily Fortnite content like this in the future, then feel free to subscribe as well as turning on those post notifications. With that out of the way, let's hop right into today's video. So as I mentioned, today's video is going to be revolved around the settings of RazorX, who is a very popular Fortnite YouTuber, especially recently. He's been blowing up all over the place, and he's actually a controller Fortnite player, so I know a lot of you guys are always wanting to see the best settings or just various settings from your favorite Fortnite creators, whether that be YouTubers, Twitch streamers, or just pro players. So if there's any other Fortnite players you have in mind that you'd like to see, then comment down below their name, and I'll surely try to make a video on them. Anyways, let's go ahead and hop right into RazorX's Fortnite settings. Now, his sensitivity settings are actually, in my opinion, very unique and honestly I think would be so difficult to play with, but obviously everyone has their own comfortability zones. So first of all, his controller sensitivity for X and Y. His X sensitivity is set to a 0.905 and his Y sensitivity is set to a 0.809. You guys can see there's about a full decimal place difference between both, which is not something that's very uncommon to see. However, the fact that they are this high is unique in of itself. It's not common that you typically see players using controller sensitivities for X and Y above like a 0.8, let alone maybe like a 0.7 even. So its X sensitivity setting is almost maxed out, and then Y is pretty close to maxed out as well. These would be very fast and uncomfortable to use if you're not used to a high sensitivity setting. However, everyone can try it for themselves and see how it suits your own needs. Now, X and Y sensitivities refer to basically free aim, so free aiming with like a pickaxe or when you're not taking shots at somebody, or they also will affect like shotgun and SMG shots because this is when you're not aim down sights, because a lot of times when you're using these weapons you don't typically aim down while taking shots. It's about half and half, so that's what X and Y will basically affect. Next is his controller targeting sensitivity. His targeting sensitivity is set to a 0.402, which just like the previous ones is a little bit higher than most people's. Obviously nowhere near as drastically high as the previous settings, but still nonetheless they are higher than the average player. This one I'm sure most of you guys could try and probably won't feel too uncomfortable with. So this setting will basically affect AR shots because you're basically always aim down sights with this, as well as shotguns and SMGs because about half the time you're aimed down while using those weapons as well. Next is going to be controller scope sensitivity. This of course refers to scoped weapons such as any sniper as well as a scoped AR, as these are basically the only weapons that have scopes on them in the game as of right now. His setting is actually pretty low, I'd say, compared to the average player, and it's at a 0.40. And this again is a little bit lower than the average player, which is quite surprising due to the previous settings that we've talked about where they're actually a lot higher than most players. But this setting doesn't make a huge difference as scope weapons aren't used that often. Next, we're going to be talking about his controller build sensitivity as well as his controller edit mode sensitivity. Now these are actually so much lower than I was actually expecting, and to be honest I don't even understand how he can use such a low setting and still be able to build and edit perfectly and with a very fast motion. So his controller building sensitivity is set to a 1.151. Same with his edit mode sensitivity, it's also set to a 1.151. And again, as I mentioned, these are actually a lot lower than what I was anticipating or expecting. They're almost set to the default settings, which is honestly quite low. Again, RazorX is known for his precise building. A lot of times he'll show off builds that are really quite mind-bending, and all the time they seem like he's doing it really fast. So I guess maybe his low sensitivity setting kind of makes up and helps his preciseness or accuracy. Next, we're going to be hopping into miscellaneous settings, and this is basically referring to the settings below sensitivity if you were to be in your settings tab. And we're only going to be going over the ones that he has changed. First of all, his HUD scale, which is heads up display, meaning the map, the inventory that's shown on screen, your health, etc. He has it set to a 0.75, so the overall size is about 3/4 what it originally is. This probably doesn't affect much, but it gives him probably a little bit better of a view of everything. Next, he has sprint by default on, which is a pretty common theme between all of the settings we've gone over. And I'll go over not only why this is very important, but also a lot of reasons why it can help you when we talk about keybinds. He next has tap to search or interact on. I have been using this and I always recommend people use this as well. It just makes it overall easier when you're opening or looking through chest or ammo boxes. Instead of holding extra square for the entirety until it's open, you simply tap it and then it'll open. Doesn't make that big of a difference, but overall just makes it a little bit easier on yourself. He has edit mode aim assist off, which most people do have off. However, I've seen some counter arguments of people in the comment section claiming that realistically edit mode aim assist should be on. However, it's very clear to see that most decent competitive Fortnite pro players, whether they be YouTubers, Twitch streamers, or just overall pro players, would disagree with that, and pretty much all of them have edit mode aim assist off, which I also recommend. And then the next setting he has changed is one of the most controversial settings in Fortnite, at least I title it that, and that is auto sort consumables to the right. A lot of people go back and forth with this, and there's definitely really good arguments on both sides as to why this can be good or bad for you, and I'm definitely in the middle. So basically the only way that I would really recommend turning this on is if you automatically always put your consumables to the right of your inventory. Consumables meaning bandages, medkits, shields, solar juices, chug jugs, anything that you're able to, I guess, ingest in the game. And again, if you always put them to the right, then this setting will definitely help you. If not, then this really shouldn't be on. Next, his brightness setting is actually changed, which a lot of you guys might find surprising. His brightness is actually set to a 0.79, which is like 0.01 less than what I have mine at. And the reason people actually raise their brightness setting is just overall for the view or visuals of the game. It's definitely not too difficult to see any part of the map at all in the game. However, raising your brightness by however you like really does help you a little bit in dark areas or areas that are shaded. So like in the corner of a room in a house, or down at Dusty Divot where there's a lot of trees shaded over the ground. And obviously if someone's using like a dark outfit, like maybe like the Black Knight or something along those lines, and they're hiding in like a shadowed area or a shaded area, although you can definitely see them, just raising your brightness helps it just a little bit, and any little amount of help, regardless of the effort in Fortnite, is much needed. So the default value for brightness is set to a 0.5, and again, he has to set to a 0.79. Next is his colorblind settings. Now, his colorblind mode is set to a protonope. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I could be wrong. And his colorblind strength is set to a 3. This probably doesn't change much at all, just a little bit visuals for the game. It makes it look a little bit more colorful, but again, that doesn't affect it that much. Now we're going to be talking about his keybinds. Keep in mind he plays on a custom builder pro, which I recommend everyone play on. So hopping right into this, basically the only thing he actually has changed, believe it or not, is his edit button, which is basically what we see most players have changed. So his edit button is actually set to the touchpad on the PlayStation 4 controller, which actually is very surprising. I think the only two like well-known people that actually used this setting is obviously RazorX, and I think FaZe Swan used it. I'm not sure if he's still using it as of right now, but it is very rare to see any player really use the setting and actually do well with it. So I know all of my Xbox controller players are kind of upset if they were trying to replicate settings. I completely understand, as I play on Xbox myself, and unfortunately we're not given an extra button like PlayStation controllers or PlayStation users are. However, an alternative that I strongly recommend is using L3, which is what FaZe Jarvis as well as a lot of other really big Fortnite players use. And this also goes back to the sprint by default, which I said I was going to talk about, because there's actually a lot of reasons this is really good. So sprint by default, every player that's really good at Fortnite seems to have this on, and there's a couple big reasons. One is because you should always be sprinting in Fortnite. There's never a time you should not be sprinting, unless of course you are crouching, and when you're crouching, sprint by default is not even in effect. So that's one big reason. And the second really big reason is because it frees up a button that we can use to keybind to whatever action we like, whether that be toggle pickaxe, reload, which is kind of a weird one, or even editing. So those are the two main reasons sprint by default should be on. And that's basically all of RazorX keybinds. We're now lastly going to talk about his dead zone settings. And he has his left analog stick set to a 0.07 and his right analog stick set to a 0.07 as well. These are both fairly low considering the default value for dead zone settings is set to a 0.2 for both. So we have some almost like a fourth of that. Now I've seen a lot of really good Fortnite players use a 0.05, which is the bare minimum for the right analog stick. However, I've never seen someone actually really use a very low setting for dead zones, at least on their left analog stick. So this is actually really weird as well. If I'm being completely honest, RazorX has one of the weirdest settings I've ever seen on Fortnite, in combination with his keybinds, his dead zone settings, his sensitivity settings, and some of his miscellaneous settings as well. They're just so unnatural. However, I guess that definitely explains why his gameplay is unlike any other gameplay we've seen. And that's pretty much all of his settings. You guys can try these out for yourself. I really recommend you do, but keep in mind it's going to feel very unnatural because again, his settings are probably so drastically changed from your own. So if you do try to make the change, definitely expect it not to feel very natural at first. Give it some time and eventually you'll grow into it. But again, that's every setting that RazorX has used or changed. We went over his sensitivity settings, miscellaneous, his brightness settings and why he has it changed. Then we went over his colorblind settings, his keybinds, and lastly talked about his dead zone settings. Now if you guys enjoyed today's video, a like would be very much appreciated. On the contrary, if you genuinely disliked today's video, then feel free to leave a dislike. Also, if you would like to see any other Fortnite creators' settings, leave a comment down below who you'd like to see, and I'll be sure to try to put out a video of that. And if you're new around here and would like to see more daily Fortnite content like this in the future, then feel free to subscribe as well as turning on those post notifications. Anyways, my name is RazorX. Thank you all for watching today's video, and I'll see you tomorrow. Adios.